please give a warm welcome to District Attorney Rachael Rollins.
Thank you so much. So I was asked to answer 3 questions when I spoke tonight, sort of what motivates me, a little bit about my background, and my hopes for a more inclusive Boston. I can tell you, no matter what my answer was going to be, what I just saw is something that incredibly motivates me. I mean, I think about how many times people have said to me, no, you can't, or it's impossible, or you could never, or it has never. And I can only imagine that the fantastic young man that just graced us with his gift had heard those things too. So I'm motivated by obstacles, usually, and people telling me no. I want to give you a little bit about my background and then my hopes, which I'd like to challenge some of the people in the room. My background is one of my superpowers, I like to say. So I have been blessed to be born into a wonderful, diverse family. My dad is second-generation Irish-American, grew up very poor in the housing projects, joined the military, served in Vietnam, was a corrections officer, and then gave 40 years to the Boston Public Schools. He met my mother, who is a first-generation woman from Barbados, and they fell in love back in 1968 in Boston, and it was not the welcoming place that it is right now. My father's family disowned him. They came around, which was wonderful later, but they raised us. We were born in Boston, but raised in Cambridge, and I think I learned many of the lessons I needed to run for office and also be somebody who is sort of a collaboration builder or a coalition builder, being the oldest of 5 children in a multicultural family. And so as the oldest of 5, you know, I was basically a dictator, but learned very quickly the need to sort of build alliances, right, with different people to get everything you wanted, of course, ultimately. But what I will tell you is my family gave me some of the best skills possible to be your district attorney. And it's not to do with the fact that I, sued my college when I was a freshman with some other female athletes and got our teams reinstated under Title IX. It's not that I am a graduate of wonderful law school, Northeastern University School of Law, and was the first intern in the history of the NBA Players Association or other cool things like that, or Georgetown University Law Center, or then later a wonderful program at Harvard Business School. I think what makes me very qualified to be your district attorney is I have siblings that are currently incarcerated and are struggling with opioid addiction. And as a result of that, I am the guardian of 2 of my nieces who are, have DCF involvement in their life. So I know what it feels like to have oversight. I would never try to say that it's the same as being on probation, but when DCF is responsible for 2 of the 3 children you have in your home, there's a lot of oversight that I deal with. And I come to work every day with those lived experiences, understanding from the other side what our system does to people and how it treats people, and how I fancy myself as being somebody who's relatively smart and understands bureaucracy, and there are things that I deal with on a daily basis there that are overwhelming to me. So imagine to some of the people that don't have the ability to have said that they've gone to all of those schools or have all of those different resources at their fingertips. So my background, I think, makes me incredibly qualified for this job but for all of the reasons that none of the people prior to me had any of these experiences. And I think what we're seeing right now in the country is people with very different lived experiences are fed up with what's happening and are finally saying, like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to run and win and do this the way it's supposed to happen. And I sincerely hope tonight that some of you hear that. And do it yourself. And so that's my background. My hopes for a more inclusive Boston, I'm lucky. I'm in this room talking to leaders of Boston. But we know that power can be given, but it often is not. It has to be taken, right? So let's calm down a minute. I'm not calling for like anarchy yet. But what I will say is that I was fortunate to have wonderful leaders like Governor Patrick, who appointed me to the Judicial Nominating Commission, Secretary Rich Davey, who appointed me as the first female general counsel in the history of the MBTA, and the first person of color to be the general counsel of the Mass Department of Transportation, Tom Glenn, who made me his chief legal counsel at Massport, and I was the first of those two things as well. But when the sort of ceiling hits you and you're not getting different opportunities, I like to remind people it's wonderful that I'm sitting here as your DA, but I was not given this job. I took it. And so make sure that, when it comes to power, I'm speaking now to the leaders here. I have a few requests of you as your keynote speaker. I ask that you lead by example. And what that means is, what do you value? Recognize that as a new CEO or a leader, a district attorney, I run a law firm essentially of 300 employees that are directly my direct reports, but I probably have about 100 or 120 other people that I have hiring and firing authority over. So even though I don't pay their salary, they can't be in that unit unless I approve them being in that Boston Police Department unit or that State Police Department unit or the Child Advocacy Center, others. So what do I value? If the memo that I issued talks a lot about municipal and district courts and low-level, nonviolent, non-serious crimes, but if you only ever see me in homicide trials or when there are really big cases happening, my words aren't consistent with what my actions aren't consistent with what I'm putting out in my memo. I realized being a leader, it's like having 300 children I have 3 children, and 2 of them are not mine, they're my nieces, like I keep reminding everyone. But it is very true that if you do one thing for one little person, the other 2 are looking and saying like, oh, I'm sorry, we're giving out, fruit snacks now? Why don't I have fruit snacks? So my kids right now are eating like 40 fruit snacks in a car on State Street, but each. But what I will say to you is that everything we do as leaders, we are watched. What do we put value into? What emails do we reply to? What emails don't we reply to? And even though it might be, wait a minute, I was just exhausted and the computer was down, that's why I didn't, it doesn't matter. They're looking at what we are doing at every single moment. So what I've chosen to do is not just show up for, homicide trials, but I show up in Roxbury Division of the Boston Municipal Court or the Dorchester Division of the Boston Municipal Court when nothing is happening and just say, hello, I'm Rachel, I'm your district attorney, because we're siloed, we have like lots of different offices, and I'm gonna mirror somebody today, I'm just gonna shadow you. Like whatever you need, pens, water, whatever, and I learn from them how they do their job. It's undercover boss, but I'm overcover. I'm just show up as myself. And then, so like I said, where do I show up not only in my office, but in the community? Where am I bringing myself to show people that this matters to me? One of the new things we've implemented is about homicides, but anytime it's called full notes, they call it full notifications, that there is a homicide that happened, I'm called no matter what time it is, and if there is a body present, I get up and I go. It doesn't matter what community, it doesn't matter what time, it doesn't matter warm or cold, because there are wonderful Boston police officers, or depending on where it happens, state police officers that are there, but they're focused on the scene and getting answers, not the community necessarily that has millions of questions themselves. So where do you show up? And then am I present when I'm there? So I'm talking about in meetings. You know, Caitlin is one of the people that works with me. She's young and hip and does all my social media. But when I meet with people, I'm like, put your phone down now. Right? Like, I'm so tired. I have children, like I keep reminding you. Every one of my children has like 4 devices out when we're talking. And it's like we are losing the ability to actually have communicate with people. If I wanted to be surrounded by cyborgs, I would have been, right? So for me, I feel like when I'm in a room, if I'm constantly on my phone telling you that I value this diversity and inclusion meeting or something, new proposal that somebody wants to talk to me about, and the whole time I'm doing this, nobody believes that I care. Nothing is that important. Honestly, like I love to remind people, President Obama made like personal phone calls during his presidency. You can put your phone down for a couple of minutes. And by the way, President Obama shot me out too, and that's what I want to focus on. Not what just happened now. So I want also as leaders, so lead by example. What do you value? Where do you show up? Are you present? I really want to challenge us to discuss our failures, because I love speaking to people whenever I'm introduced and they talk about, oh, she did this and that, and you know, I jokingly say, like, I descended from Zeus and then I was this, and no, I wasn't. There were millions of things I failed at in my life. There are still things as the district attorney, decisions I've made that, looking back on them, was that the best use of my words? Did I need to be on the cover of the Herald for 6 days in a row? Because I would say that again probably, so yes. But I will tell you is discuss your failures. Have tough conversations with your staff. Some of the things that we're talking about now as a leader, which gets me to my sort of third point of using your power, is it's very interesting when you see people that are passionate about things that impact them directly. So as a visible person of color, as a woman, if I'm constantly talking about those issues, but I'm not talking about immigration issues, right? I'm not talking about LGBTQ issues. I'm not talking about ageism. I'm not talking about the fact that there's not a single visibly other person in our office with respect to physical abilities or cognitive abilities. What am I doing to make sure that when I'm sitting in a room talking to a group about diversity and inclusion, what does my senior team look like? And I don't mean the people that come in and give you coffee or the person that answers your phone. Those are all important people too, but are they decision makers? Are they policy, problem solvers in your office, and not the problem of like, my phone doesn't work right now? Those are important jobs too, but I want to know, when you look around the room, is it tons of people that look like you, or who's missing from this conversation, and how do we get them involved? So I challenge you to use your power, even when it doesn't benefit you. There's things that I love to do where if I have an intern or a younger person, I say to them, you're going to be with me today, right? And you get to see the 752 meetings that I go to a day, or whatever it is I'm doing that day. But they're going to get an opportunity to learn from me, ask me whatever questions they want. Remember, people are excited about who you are, even on the days when you're exhausted or focused really on the problem that you're trying to solve. I strongly encourage you to reach back and lift people up, not just people that look exactly like you or, golf with you or do other things like that. Make yourself a little uncomfortable. Find people that are a little bit different and get them involved. And I will say, some of the ways that I use my power, a couple of examples, and then I will let you get back to this evening, is as a district attorney or a CEO of a 300-person organization, I'm a mom, and I'm a single mom. And so when my daycare falls through, which feels like, I have 3 kids, every day somebody's daycare falls through. But I am not smuggling my children in a suitcase into the office or pretending that I don't have kids or doing any of the things that a lot of women in this room have probably done. I bring my children in, and I say to people that if, maybe not bring them into the murder trial that you have that day. But if you have childcare issues, we come to work every day as the full person that we are. I don't want you leaving who you are outside of the office. It's easy for me to do this as the boss, to bring my children in. The other thing I did as a general counsel, which, you know, a lot of my examples, of course, all are based on being a lawyer, but you can apply this to yourself, is there were frequent times I made phone calls that cost me nothing, but as the general counsel of Massport, who, you know, I love to say I've worked at the T and Massport, which are the two polar opposites of like authorities in Massachusetts, like fully self-sustaining and, you know, income producing. That's Massport, obviously. And but my point is that having worked there, Massport, we pay our law firms, you know, the rates that they charge, essentially. We get a government rate, but we pay well. And what I would do is, when I noticed, for example, and there are many gender issues in law firms, that all the people doing my work were women, but the individual getting the credit for the work were people I'd never met before or seen, it cost me nothing to make a call to say, hey, is Colleen going to get originating credit on this matter? Because I've never met Paul. And seeing that Colleen's doing all the work for me, I'd love it if she was able to do that. Now, all they can say is no, but I'm the person that is giving them their business, and it's very unlikely that they will. Colleen is going to have to muster up more courage than, you know, all of us combined to possibly have that conversation with her firm and explain why she should be getting originating credit and not Paul. That cost me nothing, and it took me 8 seconds to do, and significantly change that individual's situation. Another phone call I've made as the chief legal counsel is I had all of my law firms come in and meet with me because as the new chief legal counsel, you're not promised anything. I'm the new person who's making decisions about who does our legal work. You had a relationship with the previous person. So when they'd come in, I'd ask that they bring the group of individuals that were actually going to be doing my work. And you'd be very surprised. You heard about the Beyonce meeting with Adidas and Reebok, which I'm like, reason number 6,000, 2 million, 5 trillion, and 8 that I'm obsessed with Beyonce. And if you haven't seen Homecoming yet, leave in 2 minutes and watch it. Woo! I want a marching band with me like everywhere I go. But anyways, point is that, you know, didn't bring any young associates with them. Having been a young associate at a major law firm, we only learn if partners bring us along. I'm not talking about color, race, gender, anything, just new associates weren't brought there at all. And what was great was I ultimately made a phone call to say to a law firm, it is my sincere hope that they had a young new associate that I had worked with before, that he was going to be invited to my meeting to present on this case or getting our business. And Stephen Hall, I said, it's my sincere hope Stephen Hall will be there if his calendar permits. Looking forward to seeing you on Monday. And Stephen called me like almost in tears, saying that the managing partner walked down and he's in this meeting and now he's getting tons of other business. None of this costs you anything. A smile doesn't cost you a thing. Honestly, making a phone call on behalf of people. So stop being stingy with those things is what I say to you. And then the last thing is be passionate, right? Make sure you're right, hopefully, with what you're very passionate about. And even if, you know, for me, I'm very proud of the litigation we have right now, where Massachusetts is basically ground zero right now on immigration issues. We have a situation where a judge was arrested for engaging in behavior that the U.S. Attorney's Office is alleging is criminal. And then myself and another district attorney, along with the Public Defender's Office for the state and Chelsea Collaborative, we sued ICE with respect to making sure that they're not going to be taking people from the public areas of courthouses. And, you know, what I can tell you is it's important that we use our power as often as we can. One of the great things about or not great things, is I have 4 years in this position, and nobody knows what's going to happen after that. So I feel a sense of urgency. And although you might be appointed or feel very comfortable in your position, one of the things, and not to be sort of Debbie Downer here, but we've had 14 homicides since I took office January 1st. We've had 14 homicides. I took office the 2nd, but we had one on the 1st. And I guarantee you every one of those individuals woke up that morning and believed they had more time. We don't know how much time we have. You need to be passionate now. There's not time to wait. And I am somebody that promises that for the things that I see that are unjust, I will never be silent. As I said before, when asked, do I believe I'm going to be arrested like the judge because I filed a lawsuit, I said no, but it would be my honor if I was. I see people all the time that are arrested for ridiculous things. If I'm going down, it's going to be for something like this. So, on that happy note, I encourage you to lead by example, be vulnerable with respect to discussing your failures, and please, please, please use your power as often as you can. Thank you.